Welcome back to another episode of the Cameras and Coffee podcast. Today I'm sitting here with Ashley Brazier, and we're talking about Pinterest marketing for photographers. Welcome, Ashley. Oh my
Hi.
goodness. This is something I knew a while back, and it was like on my back burner. So it wasn't something I was spending a lot of time on, like in the winter time.
Yeah,
Yes, but
yeah.
I'm excited to dive into this because I
Yes.
think it's beneficial for everyone to hear. So,
Yes.
before we get started, Ashley, are you a coffee drinker?
No.
Do
No.
you like any warm beverages?
I drink tea. It's like yogi tea.
Okay.
It's like tangerine flavored tea. I used to drink
Oh,
white coffee actually. And white coffee is
really?
like Pacific Northwest. I don't know. I bought it from Amazon and it was good. It's just
Huh.
more like earthy. It's more like nutty versus like coffee.
Hmm. Interesting. There's one tea that I will drink, and it is the Harney and Sons Hot Cinnamon Sunset.
That
And
sounds
it's
nice.
so good. I don't like tea at all. Like I won't drink sweet tea, anything. And that one I will drink. And in the wintertime, it's heavenly. And actually, I'm going on a tangent, but my mom has this thing that she calls what does she call it? It's like a sassy chai latte, is what she
Ooh.
calls it. And
Ooh.
it's chai, um, spiced chai tea,
Mhm.
like latte mix,
Mhm.
and then she adds that tea bag, the hot Harney and Sons tea bag. So she'll
Mhm.
like brew that, add the chai latte, and then she'll add like a tablespoon of like really good creamer. It's actually really good.
Wow. See, I don't
A
do
lot of calories, but delicious.
I don't even do creamer. I'm just like, honey, here you go. Honey, and we're done. We're done. That's it.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's healthier,
Yeah.
right? um, yeah. So yeah, I talk about this a lot, but I'm a black coffee drinker. I tried putting creamer in my coffee recently, and I was like, it tastes watered down to me. I can't do it anymore. So I'm hardcore now.
I love it. I
But
love it.
oh yeah. So let's dive into talking about Pinterest. You're actually a blogging and Pinterest specialist,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. So kind of tell us, like, how did you get to that point? Like, where did you start? Where are you now? All
Okay,
of that.
so I was initially before I started my whole Pinterest and blogging journey, I was the owner of an online clothing boutique selling women's clothing. And I did that
Mhm.
for quite a few years. I was like the buyer, the lister, social media manager, Pinterest manager, photographer, editor. I did everything under the sun. And after like 3 years, I got like really, really, really burnt out and I took a break. And I was like, well, what can I do and what, you know what I mean? So I paused for a second and I was like, what really was the tricky part in my business? Like, what was the one thing that always kind of like stumped me? And that was Pinterest. So I
Hmm.
went ahead and I took a course for it and learned more about it to implement into my own business. And then I kind of just ended up loving Pinterest and just went on from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I I feel like I've gone on those journeys too where it's like I could just do this and be happy doing
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
on the side rather than or for myself rather than doing all this other stuff I have to do.
Yeah.
So, how did you start getting clients like with this? Like what was your if you don't mind sharing
You
um
know,
that process?
so it's a matter of so I when I started my Instagram, I had 0 followers. I didn't even have my friends follow me. I was like, you're not my target audience. I don't want you in here. And
I
I
love it.
love you, but also like no, like you're not who I'm going for. And I don't want them to skew my engagement. And just it's not you're my friend.
Mm,
Thank you for the support, but no. So I ended up just like looking up photographers and just
mm,
applying replying to their stories and engaging with them in
yeah.
conversation and just creating a conversation, creating a connection, creating a relationship and going from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy because I've had so many like relationships with other vendors in the wedding industry just by
Mhm.
simply following them and interacting with them.
Yeah.
And
And
then
it's
it's
so
like by the
nice.
time we meet, it's like, how long have we known each other? And I'm like, we've never met in person. We've been chatting online for like ever. And it's crazy, but that's like authentic, you know? You like go in and maybe you have a mission, but in the
Hmm.
long run, like you're not
Yeah.
going to keep following each other if you don't like the
Yeah.
content.
Or even the
So
conversation, like if
yeah,
it's too pushy, yeah, and then they're like, no, no, I would never be too pushy because I'm just like not that person. But yeah, and I have a
yeah,
friend that like is a photographer that I had met through. She followed me for a year and a half, and then she ended up working with me, and she's one of my
oh, I
clients. And
love
like,
that.
and I had a photo shoot with her recently, and it's like I already know you. It's just so nice.
Aw,
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, that's so good. Um, yeah, so we're gonna kind of dig in. So Ashley offers this what do you call it? The triple threat. And there's my words
Triple
going.
threat kickstart. Yeah.
It's a mouthful. Tell us what that is. So this is something that I did with her and was eye-opening for sure. And I think it is for a lot of people.
Hmm.
But kind of explain what that looks like.
Okay, so essentially it is looking at every single area of the funnel. I sit down with you for about a half an hour and I go over your Pinterest strategy, your blogging strategy, what your goals are, and then I hop in there as an expert with my like expert hat on and I look at your Pinterest and your blog to see exactly what is missing that is getting in the way of your dream clients becoming paying clients. And then I go
Mm,
ahead and I look at your website as an expert, but also as a potential client and see exactly what is happening that's making me not pull the trigger and invest with you.
yeah,
And
for sure.
at the end of that, I sit down and I go over the audit, type everything out, and I create a roadmap for you, step by step guide of exactly what you need to do to start making more money through all of this.
Yeah, and it's huge because when you have someone from the outside that like takes over and at it from a standpoint from the outside, because I feel like a lot of us who are photographers are asking other photographers to look at stuff for us
Mm-hmm.
or asking their opinions and like what they're doing. And I feel like, especially in this slow season of photographers in the Midwest, we're all like, what do you do for this? What do you do for that?
Mm-hmm.
And really, like, you should be pulling people outside of your general niche or what they think it is. Because a lot of times, especially in like Facebook forums and stuff like that, it's not actual facts. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, this is what I've done and it's been working for me. But
Yeah.
why, you know? And I feel like you get down to the nitty gritty of, hey, like you probably don't know this, but this is missing on your
Mm-hmm.
website. This is missing. Or that you should have this multiple times in these areas to convert rather than having them like look for the one thing, like one button to inquire with.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And I love this package. It's my favorite. I think it's just so insightful for people who like photographers who don't know from like there's tunnel vision that exists in every single
Oh,
business.
yeah,
And to be able to have
for sure.
somebody walk in and be like, oh well, you could be doing that better, or you're missing that, or that's causing that to happen, or I'm not converting this over here in this way. Like it's so good. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we dive more into that threat, I don't know why I can't say it, triple threat kickstart, what would you want listeners to take away from this episode today? Like, what do you want them to know?
So for me, really, I think the power of Pinterest is just so amazing for business owners, especially if you're spending a lot of time on social media and you have to show up every single day creating stories and reels and everything. This really allows you to have something automated to take a step back and to be have more passive, just have more time to do the things that
Mm,
you enjoy.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know back in 2017, the concept of like doing a business on Pinterest was where I was first introduced to this like thought of, hey, put your business on Pinterest and start pinning your stuff that you're doing. And back then I was not blogging yet.
Hmm.
And so I was just pinning images and then linking my website to it, you know, and I don't know if anything really came out of that,
Hmm.
but because there wasn't a lot of intention, and we're going to talk more about ways that we can do that. But um, yeah, it's just something like if you've never thought about blogging or using Pinterest for your business, you're missing out. And today we're going to kind of dive into that. So, Ashley, tell us, is blogging dead? And I'm pretty sure everyone's going to know this answer
No,
because of the topic today.
no, blogging is not dead, and I'm not just saying that. Like honestly, um, blogging is first of all a great way to build connection with your community and with potential clients to have more resources available to
Yeah.
them, to show them your personality and who you are, to show them what you're currently doing, to provide inspiration. But also, blogging is amazing because it allows you to show up in Google search results. And that is
Oh yeah.
so, so, so amazing.
For sure, for sure. And I think that's something that people don't realize, like when you get into the SEO parts of wanting to have people find you. I think a lot of people are thinking, well, I'll just find followers on social media and things like that, and they'll convert, and they're like so honed in on one thing. But it's crazy because I want to say for me, a lot of people find me on Google searches.
I love that.
Um, and it's that, or people are putting my name out in Facebook groups.
Hmm.
So, like, building that connection with clients. But something that I love doing, and I feel like this is something people miss out on, because when someone will put on like a forum online, like, does anybody know any good photographers or anything like that? People just start throwing their work at them.
Hmm.
But for me, what I do is I say, hey, I'd love to throw my hat in the ring, but first, I'd love to give you some free education for finding your photographer. And so I'll link like a couple different blog posts that I've done to give them some resources of like, hey, here's some venues. If you haven't picked a venue, here's like budget ideas that you might not have thought of, like how much is a photographer going to cost, like that, all that kind of stuff. And then say like, here's my info. If you have any questions, let me know, you know?
That's so
And I
great
feel
too.
like, yeah, and I feel like serving your community more speaks more volumes than, hey, give me your business, you know?
Hmm.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, someone posts in those forums like looking for a photographer, you're going to get like 200, 300 people responding. And it's like, what would you
Overwhelming.
most likely go to, you know?
Yeah.
Would
And
you
it's,
be looking up every single one of those, or are you going to look for someone who's like serving you already in that moment? So that's just kind of my thought process
mhm.
on that. But
Yeah.
um so yeah, let's kind of dig in to the triple threat kickstart stuff. So Ashley did one for me, and we found out some good stuff. There's some stuff that I was blinded on, and some stuff where I was kind of putting it off and thought I could make this beautiful and perfect. And so it was holding me up, but I felt like you gave me permission to do it. So we're going to dig into that. So, kind of going through that Kickstart,
Hmm.
you had like a couple different areas we talked about. Some was the website, like putting my inquiry button on there a couple more times in different areas where I wasn't thinking of right away. Like I had a tab that says inquire, but like already, like, are you looking for weddings? Here, like, here's where you inquire now.
Yeah.
Because people, like you said, have tunnel vision, and there's people that want to like find out all the information and then inquire. And then there's people that want to just inquire right away and have you respond.
Yes.
There's like two different types of people there. And so I think that was like a really good thing to like point out, like have multiple spaces for them to inquire and reach you and kind of get involved. Now, something I will say, and I don't know if this is shooting me in the foot, I don't put my email address all over my website for the and this is really weird.
Oh.
But I do it because I don't want people to just email me and be, what are your prices, you know?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
there are places they can find that. But what I really want them to do is go through my funnel so I can follow up with them again. So like I use Dubzado, and so I will have like a link for inquiry.
Hmm.
And then if they're really looking, there are a couple places I have it listed, but I don't have it like on every page at the bottom footer or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? What are you thinking, like, as I say that?
I don't
Are you
think
like,
you need to have your email that like
no?
exposed, honestly. There are so many ways, like there's the contact page for a reason, and also
Yeah.
I mean, there's your social media too. If like,
Yeah.
and it's on your page too. So it's a great way for people who like to ask questions to go to your Instagram. They can go there and see more of your content too. But I don't think
Yeah.
you really need to have your email address on every single page or so obvious.
Yeah. So that's just something like kind of side note tangent kind of went on there, but that's something that I don't do on every page, but the point of like saying, hey, inquire here, like gets them in those funnels so I can stay organized. Because if they go through like my regular email, after one email sent, I'm not going to remember to go follow up with them or check in on them. It's going to be like in their hands. So yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where I'm like, I can't do it all. So this
Yes.
is my way around that. But some other things I noticed in my roadmap. I love that when we talked about some of the things we wanted, like how I wanted to change my business for the next year.
Hmm.
And some of the things you gave me ideas for blog content, which was so helpful because there were things where I'm like, oh, what should I do? So there were like, I don't know if you mind me sharing one of them,
Go ahead. Go
but
ahead.
um there was like all these venues that I really wanted to photograph at. And you were like, okay, let's talk about what those are. Let's talk about like some top venues in Michigan for this thing. And actually, what I really wanted to do, because I have a light and airy style, is I wanted to talk specifically like light and airy venues in Michigan. And so you kind of gave me permission in effect because I was held up on the fact I didn't have images of all those. And as a
Mhm.
photographer, that's what I want to share. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
of
like,
course.
oh, these are images. Like, here are images. But I think it's okay to not always have images, or like you were telling me, like use just any images in my photography to like help out with that blog post, which was a big deal.
And you can
So
always
it was
go back
almost like,
to. You can always go
yeah,
back to and
oh,
edit and put
yeah,
them back in there when you actually shoot them, and then there you are. But for the
yep.
meantime, it works out well.
Yeah, and I loved that because I was like, I'm getting so hung up on the fact that I don't have images of these places, which
Hmm.
obviously I haven't shot there yet. I want to shoot there.
That's
So
the
like,
goal.
how would I do that? Um, so that was really big. And then kind of like I also do senior, so you were giving me ideas on like what to do in senior photography. But also like breaking it down to like pinning those things. So let's kind of talk a little bit about blogging and Pinterest and kind of go through that avenue. So, what are some things that you think would be helpful right off the bat when it comes to blogging for photographers? Like, what is something super simple that they could do?
Oh, super simple for blogging.
Yes.
I would do market research.
Yeah.
Yeah. To find a gap that's not
Mhm.
discussed and fill that gap with your own experience, your own knowledge, your own expertise, and just your own point of view.
Yeah, I love that. Because there are things like I feel like as photographers and maybe just business owners in general, we're always, and I notice this with trends, we're always trying to do what someone else is doing and
Mm-hmm.
recreate it.
Mm-hmm.
But what if we were the ones to pave the way? And I think that's so key when you're talking about market research. Like what are you not seeing where you're like, this is something that people need. This is a resource. Let's create this so that it can be shared with others and point it back to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so good for sure.
What if you could hire an extra set of hands just to deal with editing your photos? And what if this assistant was thinking and editing exactly like you? With Imagen, this is not a distant dream. Introducing your new personalized AI Lightroom Classic editing assistant. It analyzes your unique editing style down to the very last detail and applies that style instantly and uniquely to every new photo from your Adobe Lightroom catalogs. Whether it's color correction, cropping, or straightening, Imagen's AI assistant knows what needs to be done based on your previous edits. The AI constantly learns your unique point of view and improves. With just a few clicks, Imagen edits your photos in your personal style faster than ever. It takes less than half a second per photo at all volumes. Now you can finally have the time to scale up your business and win back free time. In addition to creating your own personal AI profile, you can also use one of our pre-built talent AI profiles if you are uncertain about your unique style or just want to explore the signatory styles of leading photographers. Your new AI assistant is here to deliver. Achieve amazing results right from the first frame and maintain the highest level of precision in each and every photo. Starting at only a few cents per photo, you get fantastic value for your money and save hours of work. So say goodbye to hours of tedious manual editing and to presets that distort your photos and underdeliver. And say hello to the future.
Is there anything you're thinking of that photographers are not thinking about when blogging?
I think keywords a lot in the length of the blog post, and as well as adding another one in here, as well as headers. Headers are important too. Just structure,
Yeah.
overall structure of your blog post is very important for Google.
That was something that I wasn't doing either because
Mhm.
I have seen other blog posts and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to write like a story and then put all my images below it, you know?
Mhm.
And something I was like, okay, like I use Yoast. I don't know if
Mhm.
you recommend Yoast, but I use it to like rate my blog posts to see how
Mhm.
well I'm doing. Um so yeah, if you're wondering what Yoast is, it kind of just helps you with SEO and like know what to do in your blog.
Yeah.
But um those were things where when I was reading, they're like, yeah, use multiple headers and they call them like the H1, H2,
Mhm.
those kinds of things. And that was something I wasn't doing. And so now like some of those things where I was doing research and especially like my location ones where I started using those to
Mhm.
find that they were more beneficial in searching and finding all of that stuff. So yeah, that's true. And I feel like sometimes we struggle with keywords and what to use. And I think it was helpful in your roadmap when you were like, here are some blogging ideas. Here are also some keyword ideas to think about. Because that is always the hardest thing.
Yeah, it
Because you're
is.
like, what keywords should I
Mhm.
use? For sure.
And then talking points too. And the talking points usually
Oh yeah.
they are the actual headers. So
Yeah.
the talking points are the headers. And so basically I have your whole structure of a blog post right there for you to just fill in with your own words.
Yeah. And sometimes I feel like polling like your groups or your clients and saying, when looking for a photographer, what are you searching? I think that's key too, because
Yes.
sometimes you're like, oh, Michigan photographer or whatever, but you're
Mhm.
like, that might not be what people are mostly searching for when they're looking for someone like you. Like,
Yeah.
they're probably saying, like, um, West Michigan photographer or specific Allendale photographer
Mhm.
or not even photographer, like images or
Yeah.
you know,
It's
there's a
true.
lot of different things that can come across that I think sometimes we forget what those could be. So yeah, I get so hung up on them all the time. I'm just like,
Mhm.
like what do I use here?
And also I always try and use more than one keyword for a blog post too.
Oh yeah.
That way you kind of like get in their search results in different ways and just be creative with how you're like when you would Google, what would you say for yourself? Like what would
Yeah.
I think of like to look for you? Like how would I think of? And I kind of use those words too. And then I do use Uber suggest, and that helps too with like
Yeah.
keywords. But yeah.
Which I also think, like going back, Uber Suggest is really good if you're trying to figure out what blog posts are doing really well on your
Mhm.
website as well.
Yeah.
So you can make them even better, but also I think if you don't use the paid program, you can use like do 3 searches a day.
Mhm.
And so you can even check your competitors to see like what is doing well on their pages
It's
if
so
you're like
great.
curious.
I use that all the time
I
for my
know. I'm
blogging.
like a
Yeah.
snoop when I do those things. I'm like, who is getting
Number
searches on
one.
Google and why are they like doing so well?
Why are you
So I'm
number
like,
one? What are you doing?
yeah, right. How do I get above? Um,
Who'd you pay?
yeah, right. And can I pay something to get there?
Yeah, tell me.
Um, so let's kind of talk about Pinterest with blogging and kind of talk about like ways people can use Pinterest
Hmm.
because I feel like people just like, and this is what I was doing that I think was a disservice to myself is I would post a blog post and then I'd go in the blog post and I'd go to an image and just hit pin and then put it on my thing.
Hmm.
Um, and do like several ways. What are some ways you suggest pinning in a broad scheme?
So I suggest if you're going to use like a blog post, for instance, as a way to drive traffic from Pinterest to your blog post, I would create a pin graphic in Pinterest, because Pinterest has certain specifications for sizes that they prefer that are to optimize
Mm.
it. And so this allows you to have the right size. It's more, I guess, appealing for the user, and then create it with that. And then I would use Tailwind and put the pin in there, schedule it out, and you can link back to that actual blog post or Instagram post.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and something I didn't realize, because it had been a while since I've actually used Pinterest, is I didn't know you could do like um movement video clips and things like
Yes,
that, like clips.
idea
And
pins.
I
Yeah.
was like, where have I been? Because
Yes.
I hadn't used it in so long. And I was like, oh my gosh, even for the podcast, like I'm
Hmm.
using the snippet clips of podcast episodes in Pinterest. And
It's
I was like,
great.
this is a game changer. Like I
It
didn't even think
is.
about doing that.
It really is. It helps
But
to boost engagement, helps to overall visibility and brand awareness. It's just so amazing. Like, idea
yeah,
pins are helpful, but it shouldn't be like your main go-to for any kind
yeah,
of pinning
for
strategy.
sure. Well, and something like with Pinterest, I wasn't thinking about like keywords and things on my
Yeah.
pins. So what are some things that you're like, you really should be doing this when you do a pin? So instead of like pinning straight from a blog post, let's say I'm scheduling one out, what are some things that they definitely should have in a pin?
A pin title that usually contains a keyword, and then
Okay.
also the file name of your pin that you save should also have a keyword that you're trying to rank for,
Mm,
and then also your username, and then it would also have a pin description with keywords in there, and then a call to action telling them exactly how to find you or how to book with you or what to do next.
yeah. That's huge, because that was something where I'm like, oh, if I'm just pinning this, I don't have to think of all this stuff. But um that was something where I was like, okay, I need to do a little bit more work on this. Um and so, yeah, I love how you said like the call to action, because that was also something that you suggested in my blog post, is like at the end of every blog post, you should have a call to action, at
Yes,
least
tell them where to
one.
find you, tell them what to do
Yeah.
next.
And so, yeah, that was something where I was like, okay, that is something I need. And part of me like used to do it in the past, and then I was having the fear of broken links, because I was
Mm,
like,
mhm.
I don't want to like change this page or whatever and then find out like a blog post forever ago had this. So
Yeah.
um I think a lot of times, like right now, I'm using things that are in my Flowdesk email system,
Hmm.
um where it's like, here is a form, go ahead and sign up, or like find this or get this for
Yeah.
free or whatever. I feel and then they get in a funnel that gives them um offerings and more things that talk about like working with me, booking with me, and nurtures them over time.
Yeah.
So
To convert them. Yeah.
that's super.
It's just
Yeah,
so
for
important
sure.
too. Having an email
Yeah,
like list and all that is very, very important too as part of your funnel. Yeah.
yeah. So when you talk about Pinterest, so let's say, okay, I'm going to create these posts. How often should I be doing this? And how many for each blog post should I do?
So I think it really depends on where your Pinterest account is at. So if you're like brand new, I had a client where she was brand new, like no pins ever. I had her do about 3 pins a day and then build up from there. Just
Mm,
because if you do too much at once out of nowhere, Pinterest kind of thinks you're spamming them
mm,
and they
mm-hmm,
will start to hide your pins. And so it's really important to try to figure out your happy medium. Like I typically have like 5 to 7 to start, depending on like if you have like a more developed and already used Pinterest, and then go from there. But I feel like you can probably do for a blog post. I think it's 5. Like this is math now. We're mathing here. Now we're mathing. Probably like 4 blog posts over a month. I would
okay.
do, yeah, and then just like do the math. And also the one thing too is that I will say is that I recommend using Tailwind too for this, because if you don't have 4 blog posts, for instance, or don't have enough content, you can actually join communities in Tailwind, and you can share your pins onto there, and then you can also pin their pins onto your boards, and it helps you to grow your Pinterest
Hmm.
because they're exposing you to more people.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something where I haven't really dug into Tailwind so much. And I think we should do like another episode and kind of
Mm-hmm.
dig into Tailwind because Tailwind has so much to explain, to offer, and you
Yeah,
know a lot about that. So if you're up for it
I would
coming
love
back, I
to.
think we should do another episode, maybe a part two to talk about that. But
Yeah.
as far as Pinterest, okay, so what should the structure look like on someone's Pinterest? So like for me, I have multiple boards. I had some that were like private boards, and then some were like, hey, this is my home stuff. This is like
Mm-hmm.
what I want for this and that. And then I have like the different facets of my business. So I have like a section for the podcast, a section for my wedding photography, couple photography, senior photography. So like how would you suggest that structure be set up?
So I, first of all, I would hide in secret any boards that are not related to your business. So you can still
Mm,
use them and still pin to them, still have them. They're still yours, but no one else will see them besides yourself, which is really important because when you create a Pinterest account and have all of that going on, you want to have a very, very cohesive, like profile. And you don't want to
yeah.
confuse people with like, here's tattoos, and you're like, but wait, I thought you were a photographer. You know, even or here's a reno, and you're like, I'm confused. And also, the important thing to know too is that everything you do is helpful for Pinterest to get you in front of your target audience. So if
Mm,
you have tattoos or you have like recipes that are yummy, it's like those aren't keywords. So they're just like, who are you even trying to serve right now? We have no clue who to put you in
mm,
front of. So it's important to have that. But I usually start off usually between like 10 to 15 boards and then grow from there and
mm.
expand on that as time goes on and as you continue to use Pinterest and build up your account.
I love that. I feel like I remember a time where it was like you could only have three secret boards. And so I was
Oh
like,
no, there's many.
oh.
There's many
And then I
now.
was like, I can turn all these to secret boards. I love that.
Mhm.
And that probably just dates me because it's like, when's the last time you've been on Pinterest,
I
Kara?
see it all the time. Let's be real. I see it all the time. And I'm just like, okay, well, let's just hide this one right here. Let's just hide this one.
I love it. Um, what information should we include on our Pinterest? So let's say, is there like a difference between a business account and a personal account? Like,
Mhm.
how does that work?
So initially, you would, when you make your account, or you can go into your settings, you would turn it into a business account immediately. And then I'd also go ahead and I would claim the website. So that way you can actually have
Mm.
analytics and track analytics to see what's happening with like
Oh, okay.
traffic being driven from Pinterest to your website. And then usually there's a difference. I can tell pretty much um, there's like a globe under the person's name, like the username, and it'll have like a check
Mm,
mark in the globe and have the website, and that's a claimed account. It's a business account, and then
mm,
I can tell then, and it just gives you more like more analytics and things for you to see and be able to do with your account then.
I love that. Yeah, that's totally key on there. So let's talk about like if we're having groups where we're like pinning each other, or let's say let's backtrack. If I'm having a blog post
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like gonna pin for like the period of a month that blog post 4 times,
Yeah.
do I use the same board for that one particular blog post, would you say? Like, what would you think would be best?
So what I typically do is I will create several different pin graphics for one blog post.
Mm-hmm.
I will use single image pins, but I'll also use pins with words like titles on them, like pin titles, and do like 3 to 5 of just the ones with the words on them because that way you can kind of use different fonts, different colors, different images,
Yeah,
and really test your audience and see what they're
sure.
attracted more towards and create more content just like that because they're zoning in on that. So probably like 3 to 5 ones with the words, the text on it, and then the overall images, like probably 4 or 5. I mean, you can do as many as you want, really, but just
Mm,
mix it up and
yeah.
make it different. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, like when we have a brand that is specifically like imagery,
Mm-hmm.
we want everything to be on brand. And
Yes.
sometimes those don't convert.
Mm-mm. No.
So it's like there's been times where I've taken something where I'm like, okay, I want this to look all brand and cute because I'm going to put it in my website. But then I'm like, I'm going to try something totally off the wall and see if that's more converting and people
Mm-hmm.
are clicking on that more than clicking on something that looks like my brand, because
Yes.
you never know what what is going to attract someone differently.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's so good to know, like, try different things of the same blog post to like get people's attention and
In
click
different
in. And
ways. Yeah.
yeah. What was one other one? Oh, the one for, let's say you're in like a Tailwind group or whatever. Are
Mm-hmm.
you creating separate boards
Mm-hmm.
to pin their stuff? Like, how
No.
does that work?
So you're like, yes, okay.
Let's dig in.
So you always want to have one main board, and that will be the name
Mm,
of your photography business. That is your main hub. And then
okay.
any other board that you create after that is fair game for your content and their content, but it provides value and lets people know what you're all about, and it helps you to remain active, which is so important because
Mm,
Pinterest wants you to be active, and that's one way to kind of continue that. And so you don't have to create a new board for them. You just have one mainly for yourself, and then everything that you create with your own content would obviously be with your name, your website, leading back to you and everything.
I love that. Yeah, because you get stuck in the visual, you know, as a photographer, you get stuck in the visual
Mm-hmm.
aspects of things, and then you're like, I only want my stuff in this. So
Mm-hmm.
like, what do I do with this over here? So that's good. That was something I was very curious about. Kind of knowing what to do with that.
Yes.
Um, so, before we wrap up this conversation, I kind of want to talk about the things that you offer, because you kind of have a lot.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
we kind of hit the surface today on the things that she can kind of teach you. One being her triple threat Kickstart package. And we're going to link that in the show notes so you can kind of know that. But what else is there that you have that you offer, Ashley?
So I offer a level up package, which essentially is a VIP or a revamp week for your Pinterest. I also have full Pinterest management. It's called Total Pinterest Takeover. I have blogging by itself, so it's called Blogging Basic, and it's 2 blog posts a month outsourced. I write everything for you. And then there's also Pinterest and blogging, which is the dynamic duo, which is for Pinterest
Mm.
and blogging. 100% outsourced. I do everything for you, and it's hands off for you. And I'll be launching a new package next month, which is, well, this next month from
It'll be
now.
launched before
Yeah.
this airs. So,
And it's a 3-month blogging strategy. So basically,
oh, I
I
love
will
that.
give you the talking points, and I will give you the keywords, basically just like the roadmap, but for 3 months worth of content.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're thinking like, this is so overwhelming, like, how am I supposed to add Pinterest into my business now? Well, perfect, because Ashley offers a do it for you solution. So what would you suggest? Like, where should they start if they come to your website and they're like, okay, Ashley knows all the things.
Mhm.
Where do I start? What would you suggest as a starting point with you?
So if they're looking for Pinterest, I have Pinterest section, and I also have blogging section. Is that what you
Mm.
mean?
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like for me, I feel like the triple threat Kickstart was like a definite like eye opener. And
Hmm.
I feel like you were like, here's all the things. And if you are overwhelmed and can't implement these,
Yeah.
I offer these services to do
Yeah.
it for you,
Yeah.
which was really nice because I was like,
Here I
okay, I
am.
do have time to do this right now. But had it been like my busy season and I'm
Hmm.
like, let's get into this, I would have been like, Ashley, take the wheel. Like,
Please,
because
please.
there is no way I have time for this.
Yeah.
So I think that's yeah, really, really key. So she's got a couple links in the show notes that you can find all of these things in here. Is there anything else, Ashley, that you want to mention that we didn't get to mention today? I think we're gonna do a part 2. We're gonna talk about Tailwind. So we'll dig into that
Sure.
again a little bit deeper, but
I
anything else you can think of?
So if I were somebody who was a photographer just getting started with Pinterest on my own, the first thing I would do is I would create a business account on Pinterest, and I would claim the website, and then I would use whatever content you have on Instagram, make pin graphics with it, and then use that content to build up your Pinterest account in the meantime while you're
Mm.
creating blogs or while you're waiting to outsource or whatever. That way Pinterest can know exactly who you are, what you're about, who you serve, and start to kind of have your content in front of your dream clients sooner.
Yeah, that's good. Because I know what you were saying earlier, because you were talking about like Pinterest is going to be like, wait, what's happening? Like all of a sudden they're spamming everything. I had that actually happen. I use Planoly and I use it to schedule out Instagram and Facebook posts. And I think it wouldn't let me comment for a while on some
Oh,
posts
who's
on
mad at you?
Instagram. And I was like, they must think I'm spamming my account or something with so many posts because I finally scheduled them out for
You
once.
probably shocked the system.
And yes, I did. I shocked the system. I was like, I'm frozen for 9 days from like posting on anyone's stuff. Like, what?
Who did this to me? What's going
It was
on?
funny. And I was like, I feel like nobody puts baby in a corner.
You're in jail. You're in jail.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, Ashley, thank you for giving all this insight. Last question.
Mm-hmm.
Where can we find you on the web?
Ooh, okay. So for my website, it's ashleybrazier.com. So Brazier, and then just fancy name. And then for my Instagram, it would be its Ashley Brazier. So
And she's got so much great content on there. I love
thank
watching all of
you.
it.
Thank
And
you.
you're always like that hype woman for all of your clients too. I love it. It's so
I love
fun.
it. Yeah.
If you want to follow the Cameras and Coffee podcast, you can find us at karahainesphotography.com/podcast, or you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Cameras and Coffee Podcast. Ashley, thank you again for being on today. Oh my goodness. This is so good.
Yeah.
There's even stuff I didn't know before that I'm going to take away from today. So that's great.
I'm happy to hear.
For now, this concludes our episode. And until next time, my friends, cheers.